Live now. I don't do this too often. I have no script. We're just going to fly by the seat of our pants. Let's start off in. Let's talk about negative things and positive things about the Trump administration so far. Okay, so we'll talk about. We're also going to talk about geopolitical stuff. What's going on in Syria, the Gaza, um, Israeli, Gaza war. We'll be talking about Syria. We'll be talking about Lebanon, Hezbollah, Iran. We'll be talking about Trump. We'll be talking about the peace deal. We'll be talking about other things that you guys want to talk about. So let's get into it. All right. As far as news today, I don't see too much in that. Um, so let me just get kind of fixed up here. Make sure I have my vape, nicotine. All right. So we know the Syrian dictator that is running the government of Syria wants sanctions relief. Are we going to give them sanctions relief? Uh, I hope so, because if we do, that means they're behaving themselves. That means they're recognizing Israel. That means they're not massacring the Druze. That means they're not causing any more civil war that needs to be quelled sooner rather than later. So the dictator, Ashara, I believe his name is, was a leader of one of the rebel armies that took control of Damascus and large swaths now of the most important pieces of Syria. There is also a Russian port there, I believe, where they dock some of their base. There is, I think they dock in two ports, actually. They really, Russia, the reason why Syria collapsed was because Russia was too bogged down in what was going on in Ukraine. They had to move assets from Syria to Ukraine, hurting the Alawites and Assad's regime. Excuse me. So Assad had to flee to Moscow just to escape what was going on in his country. Now, this was heavily backed by the Turkish, and the Kurds were backed by America. What was going on in Syria was very complex. So the Syrians, Kurdish population was backed by us, and the Kurds have been fighting an insurgency inside Turkey since the 1990s. Now, just as of right now, they have stopped fighting. So there's been like a ceasefire between them and the current administration. And it's important to know that Ashara is the dictator of Syria now, but before he was fighting on, I forget the name of the militia that won Damascus and now won him power. Before that, he was part of Al Qaeda and a Syrian branch of Al Qaeda, and then they had broken off to become, I believe, ISIS. I forget, but he was part of two terrorist organizations high up, and now he's the leader of a country, and they want sanctions relief. Well, there are two populations that the United States and Israel does not want them to touch, and that was very evident when the defense ministry building exploded, killing one person in the morning of, oh geez, this is about a month ago, and the Druze were reporting being harassed and hurt. So there was some reconnaissance by satellite and other means, drone means, because it's right on the south, where it borders almost, I think it borders basically Israel. And the Druze are Muslims, they're Muslims, but they're not considered Muslims by the rest of the Muslim people, especially in Syria, why? Because they recognize the Jewish state and are allied with the Jews. Now, to get back to what was going on, there were claims of a massacre on the way. Now Syria had, whether Assad had known about it, he probably did. was assets being moved south closer to the Israeli border and closer to the Druze. And before anything could kick off, we blew up the Ministry of Defense building as like a, what do you call it? Just a sign of we're upset, and then sent some missiles in, killing some troops, maybe a couple of officers, but definitely a few pieces of armor. They got the hint, they backed off. And now there's been a ceasefire there. There are some skirmishes here and there, nothing like we've seen for the past 10 years. Syria was, guys, and by the way, I do a lot of shorts and I hardly ever do live. I have no script right now. I never ask for money, but I do ask that you subscribe. It costs you nothing. I have never asked for a single penny. I never will. And let's get back into it. Okay. So what we're talking about, let's pivot now to Iran, and let's talk about what's going on there. We do know that 20, you count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 20 generals were tricked by America, by Israel's Mossad, I mean, to get into a building, and they were supposed to talk about the retaliation of the strikes on Fordo, Isfahan, and the Natanz. So Isfahan, Fordo, and the Natanz were all hit by U-2s, and there was an 11-day war, and total all the S-300 air defense systems and all the S-400s, and there's about 12 of them, were all hit and destroyed before they knew what was going on. And what happened was that complete control of the skies, because air superiority was complete for those 11 and a half days. Fordo, Isfahan, and the Natanz were damaged heavily. One submarine was, they fired about 22 dozen Tomahawks at Isfahan, or was it Natanz? Fordo was hit with the bunker busters, and another place was hit with bunker busters, but the other one was hit with like 20 Tomahawks. So that's great. The 20 generals that were wiped out in one strike, there was about 3 or 4 scientists, nuclear scientists, that were murdered. I wouldn't say murdered. Well, yeah, they were extrajudicial killing of them, but it was needed. And who knows what kind of other sabotage that had been going on. Because weeks after the ceasefire had been put in place temporarily, there was all kinds of bombs, and they were saying, all kinds of things exploding, and people being murdered in the street. And it was the Mossad, basically. They're not going to tell you they did these things, but there was blamed on gas explosions. It was blamed on a fire or a gas leak, and many of them. But I don't believe that. The Mossad was. They actually blamed Russia because they had just signed a pact between the two countries, and they have to know where all the S-300 and S-400s are. I believe they have GPS systems in them because they don't want, for 2 reasons. One, it's a very technical system, and the Russians always need to be there around to fix maintenance, and they don't want other countries to get the technology. So they'll have a troop or 2 around that at all times to make sure. That's probably written in the contract agreement. Now, the S-200, S-300, S-400 systems were all taken out. Well, how did they not know where every one of them was? How could Israel know where every single battery was, including other batteries from less known about? But so these other ones, these S-300s, they're mobile units. You can move them. And they were all taken out. So what does that tell you? Well, Russia, they don't care about Iran. On paper they do, but they don't. And Iran was helping them. They weren't sending troops or anything, but they were sending a few spare parts. They showed them how to make the kamikaze drones. the Shavit, whatever, I forget the name of them, but they're kamikaze drones, and they can loiter for a short period of time. You can make about, right now they're making, I don't know how many they make a day, 100, 1,000, I forget. While Ukraine makes about 100 domestic drones a day. So, and Ukraine has the Flamingo, which is a cruise missile, but it's not even close to as accurate. But it does pack twice the punch of the Tomahawk. But it's about an 18 meter diameter, in which, so we'll just call it about 20-meter diameter of accuracy. Now, that's why the Tomahawk, the talk of giving Ukraine Tomahawks, is such a huge undertaking. Because now, if we give them Tomahawks, the range is 5 meters by diameter. So we're going from the Flamingo, which was 18 meters by diameter, to a Tomahawk, which is 5 meters diameter, which is going to cause way more accurate hits. So if you're going to try to hit a certain piece of equipment inside a facility that's refining gasoline, let's call it a refinery, there's pieces there that only Western companies make. And by hitting those, you're begging China for obsolete pieces. And do they have enough to send you? Will they send you? They just canceled the now they were banking on this. Russia was banking on this, and they're not going to get it. It was called the Siberian 2 pipeline, and it was going to take crude so they could sell it. Because we know what happened with the pipelines that went into Europe at the beginning of the war. They're taken away. Now there are still a couple of pipelines. In fact, I believe one even goes through Ukraine. The other bypasses and goes into what country is it? Some of the Nordic, or not so much the Nordic countries. There's one or two countries that still buy gasoline from buy liquefied natural gas from Russia proper. And they're working their way on getting that from other sources, like France sourced. Well, France, I mean, since they lost Mali, because, they have big influence in Northwest Africa. Morocco, there was a coup. I'm sorry, Niger. That huge coup in Niger that they kicked the French out. They use the franc, but it's like a different franc as money. So they have they do have power over that country still, financially somewhat. But why they need that country was the uranium. They're like the sixth biggest uranium deposit in the world or something like that. But why they need the uranium? Because of their reactors. France banked on making 80% of their electricity come from nuclear reactors. And it's been a great thing because they've gotten, real low prices on the uranium mines that they were helping Niger with. Niger then had a coup. The junta took over, and what happened was it is now run by them. They're asking for Russia's backing for security purposes. We know that Cameroon, Mali, Niger. We know what's going on in Nigeria. The Catholics are becoming massacred right now, and that's a shame. There's a lot of Catholics in Nigeria, and they're fleeing. I mean, a lot. I think it's almost just as much Catholics there because they were our colony. They got their independence back in 1958, I believe, or 1960, from England, and they're very upset at China because some of the Chinese workers have been captured, kidnapped. Oh, here's a story for you. Angola. This is how mad African countries are at China right now. Angola. They literally said, you guys have 24 hours to pack up your stuff and leave the country. That means leave everything behind. Their businesses, their mines, their mining equipment, and their stores just started to get looted. Anyway, a lot of them are kidnapped and are asking for millions of dollars of ransoms. Their businesses were taken over, and some of them torched. Yeah, so some are still trying to get out of that country. And it was for basically stealing gold from mines they were helping them with, faulty equipment from some of the projects that they put up there. Not hiring local workers, bringing in their own, and then leaving absolute devastation behind. We're talking, caustic chemicals, toxic chemicals, poisonous chemicals left behind to get into the water system, trash, debris. There's flaring a lot from the sites of the oil sites. So what we're seeing is just an absolute masterclass in how to get kicked out of a country. So Angola, right? And then now Nigeria is upset because of all the pollution, because of the extracting of resources, local resources, and locals not being able to get jobs and take place in the economies of these countries. So Angola kicked them out. Nigeria's almost ready to kick them out. Kenya's upset at them. They wanted to. They built train tracks and like a bullet train. It's not even used that much. Used, it's already falling apart somewhat. The relationship, and they wanted to take on lease the port of not their capital port, but the other port. They have two ports. Jesus, I cannot believe it. I don't know, remember the name of it. Anyway, that port they wanted to be able to take because they've taken a port in. They helped build a port in. Here's another thing going on: Pakistan. Pakistan and India aren't friends. They were just in a little war there for about a day or 12 hours. In that 12-hour war, planes were shot down, a lot of sites were hit, people died, and it was a direct result of that terrorist attack. But 78% of their weapons are bought from Chinese and Russian sources. So those air defense systems in plane were exposed, and it doesn't look good for the Chinese defense industry after the debacle. They tried to hide it. They tried to lie. They tried to say it took down planes. None of it was true. All right, so Chinese defense industry is taking a hit. They lost a lot of their price. So where was I? Oh, Pakistan. So they took control of a port. I think they leased it for like 99 years. They built it and leased it. They're able to dock there, probably bring military assets too. But on paper, they're not supposed to. Now, they make rare earths. A lot of Pakistanis went to Chinese schools to learn how to refine and, leach out, to how to extract, the best way to extract rare earths. And they learned the technology, stuff that we don't know because they've been doing this for years now, the Chinese refining and extracting, and processing rare earths, which is a really, really pollution and toxic chemicals and poisonous chemicals leach into things. So it's very, 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 very bad for the environment. All right, so knowing this, Pakistan, on paper, is an ally of the United States, whether they like us or not. They are offering $500 million we offered them to make rare earths. This was kind of done on the down low. And the first batch, it was a big batch, was just shipped to the United States. And they're already talking about the United States investing further into it. And we're talking with Australia, we're talking with Greenland, we're setting up, we'll never be like refining or processing it because it's just that bad. And Alaska and a couple other sites where we can extract the chemicals from. Now, it's going to take a couple of years to get this up and going. Also, there's other countries. It's not just those three that I had named. There's also Ukraine. If the war's, we've already entered into a deal with $500 billion worth of rare earths and natural gas. But will these sites be able to be safe enough for the U.S. to come in? Okay. So, also in Ukraine, I just spoke about the Tomahawk, right? We know about that. We know about the Flamingo. They're making that, but they're also making 100 drones a day. And if you can make 100 drones a day, that's because that's 100 drones coming in with a couple Flamingos behind it, and maybe then after that, 2 Tomahawks. Who knows? I wouldn't even, televise it or broadcast that we're giving them Tomahawks. I would just send them, and all of a sudden, surprise, surprise, these are 5 meters accurate compared to 18 or 20 meters accurate. We're going to hit sites so goddamn accurate that we're going to take out pieces that you guys aren't going to be able to fix for months. You can't source them from the West. You have to smuggle them in, so it's going to take it's going to cost more. It's going to take a longer time to get these refineries back up because the accuracy of a Tomahawk is ridiculous. That's why it only packs half the punch. It packs like I think it's like 1,000 pound warhead or something like that, or even less than that. Anyway, it's the Flamingo had to pack twice the power because it's less accurate. Okay. Also, the Flamingo is just a resilient, invention that they came up with. If you see it, the first one accidentally was painted pink, and they went with it. So they're all painted pink now, and they're called the Flamingo. So if you hear the flamingo, the bird, it's going to be the Russians' new national bird is the flamingo. Is a joke. Like, guys, I do a lot of shorts. It's like all I think is the most important geopolitical stuff with a historical context to it sometimes. And I'm going to start another channel on astronomy, astrobiology, all earth sciences, cosmology, and the like. And then there's going to be one on zoology and animals, perhaps. I know a lot of people like the dogs, the goats, the chickens that I show them on a daily basis sometimes. I could go out and show you guys that in a few minutes before I get off the show. Let me read some of your comments. I am so sorry. I am new at this, guys. Jeez, I am so sorry. Oh, somebody subscribed. I'm the only one watching you. You can show it. I'm the only one watching. You can show it. Oh, hey, thank you, Carvalho. I appreciate that. You were watching for quite some time. Like I said, there is not many comments. What do you guys want to talk about? What do you think about what I'm talking about? Do you think that there will be a peace deal? Now, they want concessions from Ukraine. Kiev, I don't think it will do that. I mean, they want to give up Crimea. They want them to give up most of the Donbass that's already been taken. So what would you do? So who's making 100 drones? Oh, that's from question. I'll tell you a question. A day? The Ukrainians are. The Ukrainians are making 100 drones a day. And I know that the Russians are also making their own kamikaze drones. And I think they're making about 100 a day as well, or 1,000 even. I don't know about the Russian statistics, but I do know that yes, there's about 100 drones a day being made from Ukraine. And there are domestically made cruise missiles. That was the Flamingo, if you weren't here for that. And there's also the Neptune. Now the Flamingo will go 3,000 kilometers. That's Siberia, parts of Siberia, and not the Far East, but bases and equipment that cannot be remade are being lost in mass. Some of these like two have bombers. They only have like 5 or 6 of them. Some of these planes that will never be able to built again because they just don't have the production lines there anymore. Let's see. Mate. Good day, mate. Hey there, ice cold elves. All right, this is kind of cool. Yo, give me a shout out. Hi, Tiffany Carr. Tiffany Carr, that sounds like a beautiful woman right there. Are you beautiful, Tiffany? I bet you are. Inside, that's the most important. But outside, keep yourself looking the best you possibly can. And that's for men too. I think it's a positive thing. It helps us with confidence. But anyway, yeah, so Tiffany Carr, you're getting a shout out from me. I don't do shout outs normally. Tiffany, are you interested? What are you interested in? Are you interested in science, astronomy breakthroughs, the JWST, coronal mass ejections, or maybe LIGO, the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, and what's going on with that? But this is a channel that we talk about mainly just geopolitical stuff and with a historical context. But I'm willing to talk about anything. Okay, so let's get back into Ukraine. There's the Neptune and the Long Neptune. So they made the Neptune, which is a missile, and then they made the Long Neptune. Obviously, the Long Neptune is what, guys? It goes farther. But so let's get into the ceasefire in Gaza. I wanted them to continue the war a little bit further. Just, but when I heard that they were going to be able to get the all of the living hostages out, I changed my mind because you could always continue the war, even though that would be a betrayal in a way, or you would have lied, and you would have been sneaky, and you wouldn't be trusted. It's going to happen anyway because they're not disarming, and that's a no-go. That's like it's a non-starter. You can't have any weapons. Wait, why did I want the war to continue? I wanted them to mop up almost all remaining resistance, and maybe they would have given up from just. Oh, you got to remember, it's a very all right. Let me get into it. I'll break it down for you. Okay, the size of Gaza is so small, and they can't get into other countries. Egypt blocked them off, so they can't run, and they can only hide, and they can only hide underground, right? And but if you block off their biggest city and you send, people to be citizens to a safe zone, and then you go in and you start mopping them up, and you start blowing up their tunnels, and taking care of some of taking their weapons away, their weapon caches. That was the big city. That was the biggest, most heavily defended city in all of Gaza. Now, since it's so small, the war can be won. It can be won because here's the thing: Afghanistan and in Afghanistan and Iraq, huge, gigantic countries, and you can slip in and out of the border, Afghanistan into Pakistan. You cannot do that. So there's no place to run. There's no place to hide. They would have been killed en masse, and now you're in a better position. Maybe they just give up completely at that point. Because there would be so much pressure on them, and there would be absolutely nowhere for them to go. Now you're letting out thousands of terrorists, basically, some of them, back into Palestine, right? And basically, making their ranks stronger, and we don't want that. Now, if they don't disarm. Like I said, I had to answer your question. I had changed my mind when I heard that the very first step of the plan was to release the live hostages, because you can always continue it. Now, I don't think we should continue the war now. I think only if they don't disarm, we'll be forced to. And Donald Trump has said similar things. Who's been here from the beginning? Question: wait, did you want the war to continue? Can you give me a shout out? Yeah. So who's making? Yes, 100 a day. I'm the only one waiting. I appreciate that, Carraro, and thanks for the subscription. I don't ask for a penny, and I never will. I ask if you like the content to please subscribe. I know there's all like 85% of you guys that aren't subscribed that watch my shorts, and it's really weird. I don't know how to monetize. I've tried everything. Like they expect you to have do shorts not count? I don't get it. Do shorts not count as time people as time watched? Because I can't even get like super thanks. I can't set up, Patreon. I can't do any of that. And I've been doing this for months, and I have 10,000 subscribers. And I feel like I have no idea why I can't monetize this. But anyway, this is fun for me. I love debating. I'm thinking about getting a second phone and then plastering up here, top my phone number and having you guys call and debate with me. Say once a week or not debate or just have, educated, nuanced conversations about what's going on and the facts, 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 facts. We'll be looking up stuff on this show to find out if the person's lying, to call them out right on air. You'll see me, just unload on people. We can talk about culture, what's going on here, racism, non-racism, DEI hiring, affirmative action hiring. What you guys think about that? Body cams on officers and how they have not been showing what people thought they would be showing would be one thing we could talk about. We can talk about why crime has gone down since the 90s and the 80s and the 70s. Why has it gone down? Well, we know. And this is why, like, we don't need it because crime has gone down. We don't need the National Guard because crime has gone down. Yeah, it's gone down over the years. Why is that? Well, the biggest example of why is because when a criminal is caught killing somebody, say for violent crime, we're talking. Say I get caught raping, assaulting, or killing an individual. The chances of me getting away now are low compared to 15, 30, 40 years ago, even 10 years ago. I was more likely to get away with that crime, wasn't I? Especially when I grew up as a teenager. I was in the 1990s. I was born in 1980. And the murder rate was much higher. The ability to get away with the crimes were much higher. And we're kind of forced to throw a lot of people in prison. But people got away after being arrested a lot, fighting their cases because CCTV cameras, phones, doorbell cameras, cameras at lights, touch DNA. It's unbelievable. So, and a lot of people's DNA is on file. Any felon has to give their DNA. So that's on file now. So here's the thing. Yeah, crime has gone down, over the decades significantly. But you can't use that as an excuse to not have, to say that you don't need the National Guard. Because if you get caught quickly, you're not out to kill again, right? So if I'm a serial killer and I want to kill 50 people is my goal, I get caught before I kill the first one, or I get caught, right after or during, because law enforcement is now gifted with all the tools it never had before, right? So being gifted with all this technology, you get caught right away, and you go to jail for the rest of your life, right? Hopefully. Now we know about this catch release, this no bail stuff, no cash bail stuff, which is killing, com, you know, black, brown, marginalized communities are and the immigrants. Where are they being put? Yeah, first of all, they're being paid for by us, billions of dollars, and they say illegal immigrants are costing the country $400 billion a year, upwards of $400 billion a year. That was one of the estimates. A low estimate was 150 billion, but they're costing us a lot of money. Immigration is. But I'll say it again, we are lucky that we do not live, our country is not like European countries like France, England, because they're forced to take in a different ethnicity, mainly sub-Saharan Africans, mainly North African Muslims, Middle Eastern, Palestinian, but a lot of Moroccans, a lot of because they cross the Mediterranean. That's all they got to do is just cross the Mediterranean. When they get to either Italy, Spain, Portugal, other countries, and then they try to make their way to the more prosperous areas in more immigrant loving areas like the UK, like Germany, like. But if you look at crime statistics in Poland, non-existent. Did you know that illegals, non-native born people, immigrants, are 78% of, what was it, German or I forget the country. It was like France or Germany, but and then the other country was like 60% non-native born, and they're the lowest percentage. They're a minority in these countries, and they're still the majority of. There was a case study of 300, and they followed these 300, and what was it? It was a Dutch. It was the Netherlands, or was it? I forget the country. It doesn't matter. But 300 Palestinians, and it was a case study run by that country. It was a Nordic country, and out of the 300 Palestinians that were brought there, 200 of them, 200 plus of them were jailed or put in prison for criminal activity, and then the children of them, the majority of those children were also jailed, and the cycle continued. And like I said, there was no one watching, but whoever's watching now, Germany is like 60%, I believe, of non-native born people are, and they're the minority, are the majority in the prisons. Same thing with France, same thing with the UK. And if you come to America, I don't know the stats on that. I do know a lot of the stats on the murder rate. It's so unbelievably skewed. You're 12 times more likely to be killed by a black person if you were a white person than the vice versa. 12 times more likely. And that's done by per capita. Per capita should be gospel. You know what I mean? That should be biblical. All right, let's get back into non-culturalist issues. Seems like when you start to talk about that, people leave the stream. I don't like when people leave my stream. So we could talk about. Oh, I made a video last night about reserves and how stupid we are, and how China has all these food reserves. I mean, so much in food reserves, right? We have like no food reserves. We just give away our excess to other countries as aid, right? But China doesn't. China doesn't do that, do they? China keeps reserves. We have gold reserves. We have oil reserves. We have helium reserves, But do we have rare earth reserves? No. Do we buy extra? Do we help subsidize buying extra? Because we should have done that, right? There's two things I made a video about, and one was rare earths and why we do not have a reserve like oil reserves, gold reserve. We have a helium reserve, like I said, but we just don't have rare mineral reserves, lithium reserves, stuff like that. We should have been buying that ever since the monopoly by the Chinese has been apparent. Look, all the U.S. had to do was come up with a bill and just give extra money to companies that are buying rare earths, including the military, and say buy twice the amount that you normally buy. But 2-3 years ago, so we'd have the reserves, so we wouldn't be stuck in this fucking position anymore, like that we're in right now. That's their only leverage is this rare earth bullshit, and it could have been if we had reserves, we could be dipping into them right now as we're sourcing new, places. And we've been actively and furiously doing that. But why haven't we done that already? You know what I mean? That's what kills me. Why haven't we done that already, guys? You know what I mean? And then we dip into our oil reserves to try to fix prices, but it doesn't really fix prices. And so just keep them. Rare earth reserves should have been a thing. We should have been buying up extra transformers. We don't make transformers anymore. We don't make them anymore. Why don't we make transformers? Because we let China make them. So they have a monopoly over transformers too. So what the fuck happens if there's an EMP or China hacks into our electric grid, takes out the electric grid or parts of it, blows up transformers? There was sabotage on transformers, domestic sabotage, domestic terrorism. I don't know if you remember a couple of years back. This was actually on the right. People were shooting up these transformers during the Biden administration, and towns were going out of power until they were fixing them. And so there's that. There's bad actors. There's hackers. There is EMPs that come from the sun that there's nothing you can do about except shut the electric grid down if you have time. Sometimes you don't have time, but someone could use an EMP at a different country and take out your entire grid. You should always have had not just reserves of rare earths, but backup transformers, because if the grid ever went, it would take 10 years and 90% of the people on American soil would die. That is an estimate done by the National Security Agency, actually, about 10, 15, 20 years ago. They said, listen, if there was an EMP, which is an electromagnetic pulse, from the sun, it got here. That's why we watch the sun. That's why at 24 hours a day, we're watching the sun and making sure the sun doesn't knock out our grid. So China's doing that too. We have the Space Force are constantly monitoring the sun, and if there is a coronal mass ejection, if there is solar wind on its way, it would hit the magnetosphere, but some of it would get through, and the stuff that got through could take out a satellite, so you shut them off, or it could take out the grid, and that's anything that's not in a Faraday cage will be taken out. Now, or another country's nuclear bomb in the atmosphere. It doesn't have to kill a single person, but it will wipe out. Technology would be wiped out. It would take you back to the Stone Age, literally. You couldn't even get tap water because the pumps would be out. I mean, you couldn't pull it out any money. Cars would be stuck on the highway. The amount of people that would die from an EMP, a national grid, completely gone. 90% is the estimate that was done by the National Security Agency, the NSA. So it's very important that we watch the sun. We do, like I said. Not too many people watching today. I only got a couple likes, and I got one subscriber so far. It's been 43 minutes, but maybe it's the time of day. Maybe it's me. Who knows? I would appreciate if you guys like what you see. You'd really help me out if you could subscribe, because I got 10,000 subscribers in like 4 months, but I do mainly shorts, and I've only done like 1 or 2 live, and it's all geopolitical stuff with the historical context, what's going on in the world, but also I like to talk about science and zoology, astrobiology, things like that, but it's mainly geopolitical stuff. 1 second here. Don't worry, bro. I just like this with my tip. Thanks, Dougie. I appreciate that. Because, I never asked for a single penny. Never will. It doesn't cost you anything, right? And, you're going to be getting good content. I have a lot of ideas for the channel. Um, but what do you guys want to talk about? Have you ever touched $400? Yes, I've touched $400 before. I have money in the markets. Oh, if you guys want to talk about the economy, oh my God, I could talk about that for hours. Um, is there anything that you guys are interested in talking about geopolitically, culturally in this country? We could talk about what's going on here, or we could talk about the economy and how gold is dipped significantly. And it's done it 2 or 3 times in the last week. And that gives me a scare because it had set $4,300 as record prices, and now it's down. And I had a lot of money invested in that. Made a lot of money invested in precious metals. 9:30. I gotta take a look. It's 8, 9 o'clock. I gotta go look at do my day trading for the day. But if you guys need any advice on because last month I'm just gonna say it. So I got about 70 invested total, and last month 7. I made 7 from only using about 60 of that. But let's just say I used all of it to make that. 7,500 total. That's what, 12% of your total amount in a month was made? I mean, that's unbelievable, but this month is a different story. I'm starting to learn that I'm not as good as I thought I was. And now that the gold market has changed, has dipped twice in the last week when it had just steadily growth up. And now we saw huge dips. There's a few reasons for that. One is less instability in the world, especially after the ceasefire and the talking of possible ceasefire in the Ukraine-Russian war. Iran and the nuclear bomb had been taken away. So now we're looking at more stability. When there's more stability, you do see a decrease in gold purchasing. All right, number 2, rate cuts or interest rate hikes affect it. Inflation affects it. And the dollar, the value of the dollar affects it as well. So you have those 4 things that will affect gold prices. As you know, gold and precious metals have been the highest performing in the last year. But in the last week, it's not the case. It's been one of the lower performing. And is that going to continue? A lot of people don't think so. They think it's just market it's correcting itself, and then there was a lot of people that wanted to cash in since it had reached such a high price. They think that a lot of people cashed out, me being one of them. But the problem is if you have a mutual fund, and I had 2, then one of them was Fidelity Gold. You say Gold from Fidelity, and another one was Userx. It's like USERX, and they made a killing for me over the. I had like 15 to 20 invested at a time, and as of like the beginning of the month, just that one had made me about 5 or 6,000. So about 33% of what I invested in initially, I had gained, and then yesterday I got crushed. But I had taken out all my money out of all the other gold and mining companies that I have in ETFs and stocks. Well, you can just dump it right away. So if you're watching, the patterns are going down and it keeps going down, it keeps going down, it keeps going down. Get the hell out, you know? And then when it finally reaches the peak of down, you think, then you can buy some of it back. Because if you expect that to go back up, and I did that twice, and it's worked for me a couple of times where I would have lost massive amounts. I had dumped at high prices, right? Didn't let the overnight thing occur. I dumped it before the stock market ends. That way, if it opens and it had lowered, I wait for the opening market. But yeah, so gold has dipped real bad. But anyway, the economy, it's volatile right now because of the trade war with China. Do you know we just, instead of entities, instead of companies, we just sanctioned an entire port in China, trying something new, and that port has become radioactive. There's hardly any ships because it was linked to Russian crude sales, along with Iranian, especially the Iranian. It was definitely a link to the Iranian. Um, so we sanctioned the entire port. Instead of sanctioning vessels or companies or individuals, we decided to try sanctioning a Chinese port. That port takes an Iranian oil that's sanctioned along with Russian oil that's sanctioned. So the port has become kind of radioactive for most ships because it doesn't matter what country or company, shipping company you're under, you're going to get hit with the sanctions, and people are afraid of it. So companies are just idle. They're being told to sit and wait for more confirmation on what they want you to do. Some ships have just turned the freak around, headed home, or are being rerouted to another market. So Trump is doing that for two reasons. One, the trade war with China because of the rare earth thing they did, and the sneakiness about how they were doing it. Number two, Russia's being war chest is being hurt by not allowing that port. You know what I mean? It's going to be sanctioned, so things are going to be hurt as far as the war chest is concerned in Russia. Now the Shadow Fleet is now being sanctioned. That port I just mentioned in China is being sanctioned. Tomahawks might be coming, which are 5 meters in diameter accuracy compared to your 20. So, all right, it's been almost an hour, guys. I'm going to sign off. It's been great. Thank you. Love all you guys. Please subscribe, guys. Please subscribe. I love all you guys. I never asked for one penny. There's about 85 casual viewers, and obviously you like the content. Then survive. So, then survive. Subscribe. I mean, but you know, it's a great channel, and whoever just clicked on it, I think you should check it out. I do mainly shorts. It's geopolitical. Who just popped in? Who is it? Big fan? No. Who just came in? Who is it? Is it Big fan again? You, Florida. Tiffany Card, Jamin. You're not gonna tell me? Freak out of here. Well, I do have like 15 or 20 minutes. I was gonna make a coffee. I saw a little bit of coffee left. Guys, it's about saving money right now. You want to save because we don't know what's down the pipe. And right now, with this trade war, things can get real ugly, and there's a shutdown right now. So I just want everyone to be careful. You know, we don't know when. Well, people aren't going to be getting their SNAP benefits in November. Soldiers are not going to be getting paid soon. Like I said, SNAP benefits, food stamps are going to be getting cut off in November. You should see an uptick in crime, especially theft, uptick in theft. If there isn't a fix to this by November what, 1st, I believe, you're going to see some serious, you know, anger out there. And there was a CNN poll that was just released on CNN. Was it a day ago or 2 days ago? They showed that before the shutdown, his approval rating with all the ICE grabbing of people, families being torn apart, whether I am for it, I'm for the criminal and the non-working and the non-English speaking. If you have all those three, you got to go because you're not going to be a productive member of the society if you have So, or if you're just from Venezuela at all, see ya. 2% of the population of Venezuela was released into this country, estimates. 2%. And all of them hate. I mean, it's a country that hates America. They have been brainwashed into hating America. Kind of like school children in Gaza. They had been brainwashed into hating us. In the Jews. They don't know anything else. Afghanistan, same thing, right? These people are told America's the worst. Iran, also, right? So why import Somalia, Black Hawk Down, right? Mogadishu, you know, and we still let these people in. I mean, look at Ilhan Omar and in Minnesota, what's going on there? Look, immigrants are good when they come in and they can speak the language, and because if they don't speak the language, one, they can become a net negative, and here's why: they're vulnerable. They have to count on other people to, interpret what's being said by them, and you have to translate for them. If they don't speak English, then they can be easily manipulated, easily scammed. A lot of them are going to work under the table, right? Especially if you're an illegal alien. You're definitely going to work under the table. And that, there's no taxes, right? They're going to get SNAP benefits. Those SNAP benefits, and then say they're working under the table at the same time. I see it happen all the time. Women do it too. Women will be doing the hair and nails for somebody under the table. And you see that, or have your own little taxi company under the table, or you just work landscaping under the table, or you don't work at all because you can get a lot of free food. You can go to free lunch and free dinners. There are free pantries. I mean, I went to this one place called St. John's in Worcester. They have an outdoor shower year round. They had tons of clothes, but they also had breakfast every morning, and except the weekends. But you would go in there, you could take as much food as you want. I'm talking Reese's, Snickers, and it would come from food distribution places, and like Hannaford's and the market baskets would give out stuff. But as much bread as you wanted, cartons of milk. Every morning you could get, like, if you came early, cases and cases of sodas. You would get rice. And you could take as much as you wanted. And I'm like, this abundance is going to stop. No, I went there, and people, would load their backpacks, and some of them would try selling it, these products, you know. But like here, you are paying $3 for a king size Snicker when I can grab 15 of them and just stock them in my house. And anytime it saved me, $45. I live about 45 minutes away, but they have other places that are not as good as that place. But I'm telling you right now, check it out if you're ever in Massachusetts, Worcester, St. John's. What a place. And people go there, they pray every morning. Uh, it's the downtrodden, it's the minority class of people, it's the drug addicts, it's the homeless, but it is what's keeping them homeless, I think, what's keeping a lot of them from working. See, if you're disabled and you're actually non-able to work, non-able bodied physically, especially physically, but a lot of the conditions and mental conditions you get better, and you can work. But like, I'd say like, and I've seen it. I don't know what the percentage is in a place like this, the homelessness. You see a lot of people being given benefits, cash benefits, high amounts, even veterans, $3,000, $4,000 a month on total, and health insurance and food stamps, and they get to go to these free food banquets and all these other places, pantries and the like, and they utilize it, and they're still homeless, and they say, well, I can't work. Well, okay, fine, but where does all that money go, right? You're probably eligible for Section 8, or you might have it already, or you're eligible, definitely eligible for it, and you're eligible for reduced, subsidized housing, and you can get it, and you don't even need it. So, like, if you're a vet, a wounded vet, you can't work, you're on disability and on a pension from the government. I mean, that's a lot. Oh my God. If you live, you don't have kids or not, oh my goodness. Easily, easily. I mean, I was getting $1,000 a month when I was disabled for a little while. Got in a few accidents when I was a kid. And so I understand that the money is just enough for rent. So you get yourself a roommate, right? Or you work part time. They allow that. So I think you're going to see an uptick in crime in November. I don't think I know. As long as the shutdown is still there, because people will not be receiving their checks, will not be receiving their benefits, will not be receiving their food stamps, and a lot of people are out of work and haven't. They go paycheck to paycheck. So people are going to be, I guess, forced to make a decision to feed themselves and their children. Will they steal? Yes. Will there be roving bands of people stealing, thinking they're entitled to steal it, when they could have just went down to a St. John's, or they could have just went down to a food pantry, or just ate for free every single day, 5 or 6 days a week, twice a day, at the local church. Or, I mean, so you'll never go hungry when you're homeless. And that's part of the problem, and benefits are given out. And when they come, they sell the food stamps to somebody, or they trade it for drugs. And 90% of all the homeless that I've seen on the streets are, and I've been in some of the worst neighborhoods. So when I was disabled, I didn't have any money. So I was living in very impoverished areas. I'm not saying I was a saint back then. This is 25, 30 years ago. But I've been in some of the worst neighborhoods you could ever imagine. I've had guns put to me. I've been hit with a machete. I could go on and on and on about some of the crazy things that have happened to me. And I've lived with minorities. I lived with four, me being the only white person. I was over in recently, Mass Ave, which is Methadone Mile. I was recently, like 2 months ago, Kensington Avenue. We were going to buy a car in, not, what the hell was it? The state next to it, Philly. Was it New Jersey? We were in New Jersey, and me and this guy at a Burger King, who was trying to basically rob us with a stolen car. It's crazy. So we go into Philly just to see what it was like, what it was looking like, if it was just as bad as what you see online. And yeah, it was crazy. We spent it was a really cold day, but there's like bridges on that street in Kensington Avenue, so a lot of homeless stay there because you don't get wet from the rain or the snow, because there's so many like bridges and overpasses, and you got the train and the T right there, and yeah, it's crazy. Even in the winter, girl would be like, showing her breasts, and oh my God, it was nuts. Like, people run up to your car, especially if they see a white guy. And yeah, I mean, I got out of the car and walked around and everything. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was recently. I was in Queens, and I was left in a vehicle at like 2 a.m. while my friend, I guess you could call him that person I was living with, was getting laid, paying a woman to have sexual intercourse, and or I think it was just a massage. But anyway, I don't know how it worked out for him, but I did know that they were surrounding my car, women, and they were sticking their butts on the windows from the sidewalk side of the car. And then I could not see out of that side. I was wondering if, and then I saw two men come over. This is after they seen me for 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes, just sitting in the back of the car by myself. Finally, then my friend comes back to the car. Oh my God, I was shitting my pants because I couldn't get in contact with him with the phone. It was unbelievable, to say the least. That was my second trip to Queens. My first trip to Queens was even more crazy. We had been left in Manhattan, made our way over to Queens. We were going to stay in a hotel, but it was real late already. So we decided just to sit in. He decided to just sit in the lobby and read on his phone or whatever. While I walked around the streets of Queens, checking out the atmosphere and not being afraid, But I was literally the only white person that I saw. It was crazy, and just rows of Spanish people. I'm sure many legal aliens, but that's the way Queens looked. I didn't see any assaults. I heard it was a real bad area though, because I was asking people. We finally got somebody to give us a ride home. We were not going to take an Uber at the price they were asking, like $600. We paid someone like 400 and something in cash to drive us all the way home from New York. It was crazy. I think it was actually like 500. I forget exactly how much it was, but it's less than what the Uber was asking. And my friend, he's Muslim. My friend at the time, Afghani. I was living with four Afghanis. Him and his brother, you know, fight for every penny. And we were there all day. It was just me and him. His brother wasn't there, but it was just me and him. And all day we're at this Muslim mosque, and he's going from person to person to person to person all day trying to, figure out what's going to be the best price. We went into one, trying to talk him down. It took forever, over like $15 at one point. It took an hour. Finally gave in. I'm like, Jesus, it's crazy. He's more Jewish than I am, and I am Jewish. But that's an interesting dynamic when you say four Afghans living with a Jew. Now, they had worked for the U.S. government, coincidentally, and one of them was an interpreter, and they're supposedly not going to be able to go back because of the Taliban. So, let's see what we got here. Shout out to me. Something about nothing podcast. Say a shout out to me. Shout out, brother. And that's Something About Nothing podcast. Something About Nothing podcast. Something About Nothing podcast. Check it out. I have no idea what it's about because it says it's something about nothing, right? Hey, dude, could you subscribe? Maybe I'll run over to yours and you subscribe. And I'll subscribe to yours. I'll check out your podcast. Just subscribe for me, bud. All right, I don't like to talk too much about American stuff, American culture. I know we have a lot of people in prison right now, 2 million. It's a majority minority in there. And there have been a lot of black people listed as white. And they're black as the blackest black man, pictures of them, and they're saying it's a mistake, but I'm saying it's not. I think it's done on purpose. I think there's way more blacks in there and way less whites than they say there is. A, I know from sources, and B, I've seen some of the research showing that black people were being listed as white, and there was so many that it couldn't be listed as a mistake because there was hardly any white people being listed as African American. So why? And then why in 2019 can you not get anytime past 2019 the ethnicity of the assailant, the person that murderer, the killer, is not given by the DOJ or by the FBI. And that was during the last administration, right? Where their goal is, it looks so bad that they just stopped collecting data. But that data still is fairly recent. In 2019, we do know that African American male that only make up 6% of this country account for 49 to 51%. I'm sorry, 51% of murders in 2019 and violent crimes, like 60% or something like that, which is crazy. I mean, that's insane. And then black on white crime is worse than white on black crime as far as killing and assaults are concerned. It is so unequal. It's not even funny. You are 12 times more likely, according to that data that I just spoke of. That's DOJ, that's FBI data collected by government agencies that they stopped collecting in 2019 because it looked so bad. It looked so bad for the African American community. And it's a big problem, you know. So now white people are being told you're racist if you talk about these things. And, you know, nowadays, and I'll say it again, I say it a lot, is yeah, crime's down across the board because of cameras, because of what's on cop cameras, because of all the phones, but because people get caught with touch DNA now, so they're not able to commit that murder again, right? So murderers commit murders. They're usually plural. They usually don't stop. They usually continue, right? Serial killers usually killing one after the next, after the next, after the next, until they finally get caught. But now they're getting caught very quickly. So, and it's a very big deterrent, right? But that that right there tells you all you need to know. Yeah, there still is a huge problem, but people are just getting caught faster. But a lot of them now are being released too soon on no cash bails and catch and release on violent crimes. Did you know 500 people are responsible for the majority of gun crimes in Washington, D.C.? Only 500 of them, but they just keep getting released. And this is gun crime. This is real, either shootings, attempted killings, or just carrying a gun without a license, FID card, or you're a felon carrying a weapon. But these are only 500 of them. Now the National Guard push, right? Whether you're against it, why you're against it, I don't know. It's cleaning up the cities and across the board. We know Washington, D.C. was federalized and 60% of all violent crimes. Check out this stat. 80 plus percent, it's like 82% or even higher of car thefts and car thefts, stealing of cars, carjackings also down 82%. How about that? Vandalism down. All crimes across the board are down. Domestic even down. Oh my God, Memphis. You got people that were against it at first saying, I was against it, but now I'm not. And let's just talk about black women. Black women are the demographic where they're single mothers because 70 to 80% of children don't have a father in their life. Unfortunately, it's sad. And so we know that about 90 plus percent of female African Americans vote Democrat. Now, male African Americans, it's different. Male African Americans, it's only like 70%, okay, which is still high. But compared to the female African American blacks, they're 95% Democrat voters compared to the male African Americans. That's about 70, like I said. And why is there such a huge disparity? Well, I think personally they understand that the Democrats aren't going to cut things like SNAP, things like health care for their children, things like disabilities for their to be paid until they're 18. Things like that might get cut. So they're, rightfully in a way scared. But a lot of these women work. Oh yeah, they do either illegal things, okay, and you know what that is, the oldest profession in the world, or they'll do hair, nails. They'll do, or they can, if they have a car, they might taxi, or they make a babysit. And these are all under the table, of course. So, because, if they were gaining money, that has to be reported, and they might lose their food stamps. And they understand the amount of food stamps that they get and the amount of cash benefits that they get. is enough to live on. As long as you have maybe, if you have more than one kid, you're going to be okay. Um, because they're giving you more. Then you have WIC, which is like women's, like for baby. You have Planned Parenthood, you have food pantries. In this country, there's too much being given. I think you could make do with about three-quarters of the food amount that you're getting, maybe even less. I think that some people need to be investigated. I think nowadays it's easy to investigate, much easier. I think money should be dumped into finding out if they're tax cheats, basically, or they're cheating the system, and make them repay all of it. And it will be a deterrent. Make them repay it, put them in jail, make a spectacle of them, and maybe that will deter the rest. If you're caught selling it, you never get it again. If you're caught, oh, you should have to take drug tests during any when benefits are given, because if you're using drugs and you be giving so you're saying you're having trouble finding a job or you can't work, if you have children, you're getting money from the government, and the government should see that if you're an able-bodied person and you're supposed to be temporary, we want to see at least this many applications submitted in this period of time, or you're going to lose, say, 50% of your benefits because you're not actively even trying, right? Um, or if your drug test comes up positive two times, then you lose, all your benefits until you pass three tests in a row. Things like that. Because we're not just going to be giving things to people that are just going to sell them, right, or trade them so they can be high. Their kids aren't benefiting from that. And since they have to take these drug tests, they'll be mandatory. And in the bill that I make it mandatory. And if you are found to be using drugs, well, now your kids are in danger. And there will be a very least the kids get taken away. Um, at the most, they get taken away. I mean, but at the very least, your house should be searched and to make sure that the kids are okay. And if there's paraphernalia, if there's drugs, if in the systems of the children, for any reason, then they get taken away. Kids are very important for the future of this country. And Gen Z, I did a video on why, paradoxically, it's like an oxymoron that it's almost a given that each generation you know is smarter than the generation prior to it. It's always been the case until Generation Z. It seems Generation Z, with every positive technological breakthroughs, I mean, you literally have the answer to any question you want to know in your hand. It's like attached to your body. Like when I was a kid, we had to look it up in the card catalog. There was the library, and you had encyclopedias, and the internet was in its infancy. In fact, it wasn't even there. I was born in 1980. We didn't have computers in the classroom. We had when we wanted to figure things out. We were lucky to have a goddamn calculator. We had to write it out ourselves, show the work. Um, Education's in the dumps, isn't it? More money has been thrown into education in the name of civil rights as well. Oh, there are so many, a couple $1 trillion probably spent into education, and the results show worse. And 50% of the money doesn't go into individual care for the children. It goes to the most ridiculous things. It's like 60% of it is like faculty, supporting faculty, stuff like that. And you got to ask yourself, why? Why? We spent so much money on that education, and the results are worse. How? There's something called the Mississippi Miracle, where Mississippi was ranked like the worst, like for years. It was a joke. Well, thank God for Mississippi was the joke, because Mississippi was dead last in some of these categories. Well, they didn't spend more than just $10 million is all they like invested, when other states are investing billions, and they are getting excellent results. And it's like the fourth grade reading was one of the worst in the country. It's now one of the best. And that took place over about 2 or 3 years. And you couldn't pass the third grade into going into the fourth grade if you didn't meet certain requirements. And if you didn't meet those requirements, you were immediately flagged and given extra one-on-one time, where it worked great. And I forget some of the other improvements that they had made. I know they purchased more of these linguists, because now you got to remember, right? Some of these testing scores are because almost solely because, not solely, Jesus, are are skewed a little bit, because a lot of them don't speak English already. How can you be proficient at these tests? Good at these tests at all, especially reading and comprehension, if you can't even read or speak the language. Yeah, you get a zero, basically, right? So, yeah, and then in future tests, in future years, in future grades, as you get older, it's still going to be, stunted. But look up the Mississippi Miracle if you're interested in how to really help this country learn, the kids learn. We'll see. Okay, guys. Love you long time. Hey, what's up? I was about to sign off, but hey, subscribe, dude. It costs you nothing, and I ask for nothing.